Alrighty, are we live? Yes, we are. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, or twilight, or dusk, or any of the other times in between. It's brunch time for me. Yeah, I didn't really mean to start working on this stuff today, but I did, and I got stuck doing it, and I realized I should probably be documenting what I'm doing. Yeah, so the last couple of streams, let me pull up where we were. Here we go. This is the editor code. The last couple of streams we were working on getting Plan Editor working, and that's working pretty swell since the last stream where we got the input filtering to look correct. However, I decided that I was kind of getting annoyed with a little problem that I've been ignoring up until now, which is the way that video seems to stutter a little bit when you are working in a windowed mode. And when it comes to video games, there's a couple of situations where you might want that. First is the one that we're going to be dealing with for the next while, which is working in the editor. An editor is by nature a windowed application. And then the second is borderless windowed modes, where a lot of folks, a lot of Windows players, they like to use borderless windowed instead of full screen because they don't like the amount of time it takes to context switch when they want to add alt tab to another application. So it might be a little hard to pick up what you're looking at here on stream, but I've got a second test state going. This is still the same game project, I just loaded up a different state, where I just set Madeline here to oscillate around in a circle. And the idea is that I wanted to detect any variations in motion, and lo and behold, there were quite a few. I had picked up on some of the stuttering before, but it just wasn't time to deal with it. And frankly, there's other things I should probably be thinking about now, but I do need to deal with this eventually, and I think that if I don't deal with it now, it'll probably bug the hell out of me. And I've kind of got most of the way to a solution, I think, because before I wasn't really comprehending the problem. But I'll walk through my process. I'm going to turn the music down a little bit. And of course, we are listening to the lovely work of Christopher Larkin from Team Cherry for Hollow Knight music. So the first thing I thought was that perhaps this was simply just a issue with the timing. Like maybe there's some problem with my time system and that the motion wasn't smooth because of that. I did some data analysis on that. I basically just went in and wrote out a file to an Excel file telling me, like, you know, what my delta frames were, and I found that they were actually pretty okay. They didn't really vary too much at all. So then I decided to stick this little frame counter in the corner. So this is actually invoked not from my GUI but from the game code. I just have in the state. I have it. If I go to the state. Motion state.cpp, this guy. This is just the simple little applet that I'm running where we basically just load up the font and the texture, and then we draw the stuff on the screen. Basically, we just have a little frame counter that's incrementing, and then we render that number out to the upper right hand corner. And I did some screen captures and started recording what I was looking at to see if I could spot where the issue was occurring. And what I was finding, I'll go ahead and load up an example. I'm using Reaper here just for the sake of video scrubbing. Here we go. What I was finding, and if I can find an example of it, oh, this might be a postfix. I know I've got one here. Is this one? Yeah, this is one. Oh, I quit Reaper. Nah. Reaper is primarily for audio, but I just needed something that was really easy for me to scrub video with, so I did it in here. But anyway, I took a screen recording using the NVIDIA game overlay recording, and just kind of stepping over frames, I noticed something unusual, and I'll make this full screen for the moment. And then oh, can I do? I guess I can't do full screen while still using the nudge tool. So, here we go. So, watching what happens every time I click the nudge right button, this nudges to the next frame. We go frame by frame. We can see the counter going up on top. So we nudge right, we nudge right, we nudge right, we nudge right, and you see that it skipped a number there. And that struck me as odd. So we go from 48 to 49 to 50 to 51 to 53, and then we remain on, well, actually we don't remain on 53. We go to 54, and then we remain on 54 for a frame, and then we go to 56, and then we remain on 56 for a frame. And so it's doubling up frames. It's displaying some frames twice, but it wasn't the frames I was expecting. It's actually displaying not the last frame twice, but the next frame twice, which clued me into the fact that we probably have some triple buffering shenanigans going on. So by default, out of the box, OpenGL only supports double buffering, and I am using double buffering for the engine and the editor right now, and eventually I'm going to be adding some options for games to be able to change that themselves on a player machine, so that way a player can turn on and off double buffering and things like that. But out of the box, the engine currently does double buffering, and the editor I think I'll just leave it to do double buffering. I don't see much reason to make that optional when it comes to the desktop application. But double buffering works by you render to the frame that's not displaying. And the reason why triple buffering is a thing in games, and this is a feature that's supported mostly by DirectX, and you can enable it in OpenGL games using your graphics driver usually. The reason why triple buffering is a thing instead of just having two buffers is because the time it takes for the back buffer to flip to the front buffer, that itself takes time. And so while it does make sense for your game to wait for the next vertical blinking period to render each subsequent frame, depending on how quickly the game is running, there's going to be periods of time where you're waiting for nothing. You're not waiting to be able to draw the next frame. You're waiting. Or sorry, I said that wrong. You're not waiting for the frame to occur. You're waiting for the opportunity to start rendering the next frame at a time where the previous frame is already displaying. So triple buffering is intended as a feature to mitigate that downtime, make your game's frames run faster, while still avoiding tearing and and all those problems associated with turning your VSync off. However, I didn't have that enabled on this platform, so it was a little surprising for me to see this, because this suggests that I have 2 frames rendered, and the frame that shows up is skipping over one of the frames I wrote. So that implies a 3rd frame buffer. And after doing some research, it turns out that that's exactly what was happening. There's a thing called DWM. This is not something I was super familiar with before, but apparently gamers, elite gamers with 200 hertz monitors, they like to turn it off. And on Windows 10, you don't even have an option to do that. You have to kill the process. But DWM is for desktop Windows management, I guess, and it's a Windows 8 and a Windows 10 thing where when the operating system handles your windows, it actually has all of them render to a bitmap off screen, and then after the fact, it will take that buffer, that bitmap with all the windows in it, and use that as a texture to composite everything on the display. At least I think I'm saying that correctly. I've learned this all just like this morning. But yeah, the idea is that like if I mouse over a tile here, you can see the preview on the bottom. It's showing me that preview live, even though it's not being rendered this frame. So that's because of the 3rd buffer, the extra buffer that I was talking about. So the problem appears to be that there's a synchronization issue between my frame rate, OpenGL's frame rate, and the DWM frame rate, which is surprising to me because it's like that's technically out of my hands. Usually when you invoke swap buffers on a double buffer context, this will wait for the next vertical blanking period, but it's actually not waiting for the vertical blanking period for DWM. It's waiting for the buffer to be available to render to in OpenGL. So you could render a back buffer for double buffering on OpenGL, and then depending on which one is finished, like if you happen to go through that cycle of changing 2 buffers in one DWM frame, then the DWM frame will skip over one of your OpenGL frames, and that's what I've been seeing as a stutter. So I looked into how GLFW handled this. GLFW uses a call from the API. Here it is. A call from the API for DWM called DWM flush, and basically the DWM flush basically makes you wait. It causes the calling thread to wait until the next vertical blanking period is finished, and that seems to work pretty well, but it's not a perfect solution. So let me throw that back in. I've added DWM flush to the editor callback, and if I go to run it and hit play, and we observe what this looks like, it might be hard to tell over the stream, but this is actually a lot smoother. There's virtually none of the stuttering that we saw, but there is still some stuttering. And I'm a little annoyed by that, because it seems like for an application as simple as this, there's like nothing going on here. This is just a simple sprite moving around in a circle, got some windows with some text. I mean, this is a very simple program compared to some of the games that people buy. You would think that it would just be, really easy to get everything to align perfectly. But apparently that's not the case. So I'm looking into alternatives, and that's where I realized that I could probably start streaming what I was doing. Now let me turn the music up a little bit, and then I'll just turn it down for me. There we go. Cool. All right, so I was looking into some alternatives, and there's a couple of places on the internet where folks were looking at alternatives. Particularly, there was a thread, a rather helpful thread on the Love 2D framework, which is a framework for, I think it's like programming Lua games using OpenGL, where they looked at this problem, and I think they wound up going with swapping. Yeah, they went with DWM flush. So down here you see the call to DWM flush. So they wound up doing what GLFW did, which is that before every swap buffers call, they would call DWM flush, and it would wait for the next DWM flush to finish. So the next time that that not OpenGL, but the desktop manager, the next time it flips its display, that's when you return and you call swap buffers, and that works pretty well. The idea is that it will it'll almost guarantee, with an asterisk, it'll almost guarantee that each subsequent frame that you render will occur between DWM frame flips, which causes it to be a lot smoother. However, I have measured using frame analysis, using video captures like this, that there is still every once in a while we'll have a dropped frame, and I'm looking at alternatives to fix that. This one here, I found a thread that somebody who is contributing to the Chromium project, which is like the library version of Google Chrome, was saying that it was doing a whole bunch of testing about various ways to approach this problem. And this person believes that D3D KMT wait for vertical blank event is better because first it doesn't busy wait like some of these other alternatives, and that it apparently waits for the DWM blank, or it apparently is driven by DWM, which I'm not sure about, and neither is anybody who is paying attention to this thread, even though there's some testing done. I'm just going to give it a shot and see what that looks like. So this uses GDI32, which I am not linking to yet. Let me go back to this guy. First, I'm gonna comment out the stuff I've done with the DWM API. Window graphics. Window. Oh no, it would be Window Win32, and on the engine that's part of the graphics API. All right. So I had plugged in this DWM flush into these calls. I'm taking it out, and we should be seeing that stutter return. There we go. And for the remainder of the work I'm doing here, I'm going to be using the standalone game where everything is all compiled all at once, for a couple of reasons. First, I want to use a super optimized version of this game. So this is the release build, and release standalone builds in Enterprise feature IPO, or I think it's interprocedural optimization. I think that's what it stands for. Basically, it's link time optimization. So instead of just optimizing within each translation unit, every translation unit between the engine library and the game code can see every other translation unit, and the compiler is able to optimize away things between those boundaries, so it's even faster. And the issue seems to occur most often with really fast programs, because they are more likely to have two OpenGL cycles occur within a DWM cycle, if that makes sense. So this is that going. We see that we got a little bit of stutter. Again, this is kind of a hard problem to perceive on stream probably, but we got a little bit of stutter there, so we can move on from there. I'm going to go to CMake lists now for the engine. CMake lists is where we set up the linking of libraries. So I went in here earlier and I added the DWM API library. Now we are going to add the GDI32 library, which is where we find the D3D KMT stuff. So I should be able to just add GDI32 to the Windows platform and hit save. If I wanted to use this in the editor, I would have to separately put it in its links. I do this privately because I don't want game projects to link to this. And then I should be able to just access the header from... Yeah, the header should just be part of the Windows headers, I believe. So I don't think I have to add a path for this. So it says include D3D KMT HK. I don't know what those extra digits stand for, but I frankly don't really care right now. Cool. So save that change. The reconfiguration has happened. We're back in the window code. I'm going to go include. Yes, yeah. So it was able to find it. IntelliSense auto-filled in the header, and then the call itself is this D3D KMT wait for vertical blink event. So right above swap buffers, I'm going to call this. It takes an in, and the in is a pointer to a D3D KM wait for. Okay, so there is a structure that I need to provide that describes parameters. So I need to pass in an H adapter, an H device, a VID, PN source ID. I'm not sure what all these are, but I'll figure it out as I go. So first thing I'll do is I will declare one of these. Info, I guess is what I'll call it. And then info dot, I guess we'll start with H adapter. A handle to the adapter. I'm not really sure where I would get that. Not really sure what an adapter is, so maybe I'll need to do a little bit of reading. Control F and search for adapter. Okay, so here's some stuff. Adapter info, adapter address. So there's a bunch of structures involving adapters. There's a bunch of structures, huh? They really like their structures. Okay, so now we're looking at the methods. There's a close adapter, so I suppose that there's probably an open adapter as well. There's also enum adapters, so I just wanna, okay, here's something, query adapter info. Okay, so this accepts an adapter handle and gets info about it. I need to know, here we go. I need to know what these adapters are about. Okay, here we go. How to enumerate adapters. This topic shows how to blah, 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 use the Microsoft DirectX graphics infrastructure to enumerate the available graphics adapters. Dark 3D 10 and 11 can use DXGI to... Okay. You need to enumerate adapters for these reasons: to determine how many graphics adapters are installed, to help you choose which adapter to use to create a D3D device, to retrieve a IXGI adapter that you can use to retrieve device capabilities. Okay, so does this mean that I need to create a direct 3D device? I mean, that's not out of the question, but I would prefer to not if I don't have to. So let's go back to our friend Google and search for an example. Oh, this is a helpful looking guide. Or helpful looking Stack Overflow question. This is one of the things that would cause people to give up on OpenGL on Windows, because you don't have to deal with this at all with DirectX. But I'd rather get this working with OpenGL, and so I can work with the simpler API, given that I'm new to graphics. Okay, so an important piece of information I just got from this was that I will still see some stutter if I don't reverse the order of these. So actually, armed with that information, I'm gonna quickly change tack. I'm going to return DWM flush, but then do it after the swap buffers call. I don't know if that really would make a difference, but you know, we may as well try it. Just quickly reading through this while it's recompiling. DWM completes composition at some time before the vblink event, and then turning the vblink interval, DWM tries to write to the front buffer as fast as possible. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, this would give you the largest amount of time between the wait for the vertical blank and the what they call a presentation, but we call swap buffers in OpenGL. So maybe this is... I'd be really happy if this completely fixed it. So I'm just watching the movement of Madeline very carefully to see whether there's any stutter that I need to worry about. Sometimes it's a little hard to catch. Let me use Alt F9. I'm going to start recording. Okay, I think I saw something there. I'm going to stop recording, hop into my videos where I was just working. That's the wrong one. I need... Is it in desktop? Desktop? It is, yeah. So I'm going to load that up into Reaper again. Just do a little bit of analysis. On the one hand, I probably should get some video software to help out with this part, but on the other hand, this is just, Reaper is just so lightweight and so useful. Anyway, Control-Shift-V will give me my video back, and I'm going to reduce the window size and start nudging. And we're going to see whether we have any numbers being skipped on that upper right hand corner. 5, 6, 7, 8. So far, so, oh, there's one. Back. So we go from 63 to 64 to 65, 66, 60, 67. This is supposed to be 67. But we get to 68 early, and then the next frame is 68 again, and then we're caught up. So the issue is lessened, but still occurs. However, knowing that this guy has encountered similar issues makes me wonder whether this is better. Okay, the second method appears to work perfectly. There is no longer any stutter. So I guess we'll continue with trying to get this to work. D3D, KMT, wait for vertical blank. And hopefully we'll see that stutter go away. I'll leave Reaper open so that I can do some more adjustment or do more video analysis frame by frame. All right, now I just need, well, first I'm going to leave this, leave that tab open because that looks like a very useful graphic. Okay, so this is a GLFW issue. That's interesting. So they have a get vblank handle call, which doesn't appear to be part of the DirectX API. So I guess that's probably part of GLFW then. Let me take a look at GLFW. While I was studying this issue, I downloaded it and built its examples and did a little bit of study. And I'll search for get vblank handle in here. No, it doesn't appear, so this must be from somewhere else. D3D KMTH. Okay, here we go. So they have a helper call here. Get vblank handle, and there's the link to where they got this code from. That is perfect. So it looks like what they do is they enumerate display devices. They create a device context. They open an adapter from that context using information from I guess the device context, you pass in the device. Okay, so you get the device from the enum display devices. You pass that into create DC, which creates your device context. You take that, and you open up the adapter handle, and that gets you your handle. Then you release the DC, which is what you do. You'll only on Windows, you'll generally only get your device context and then hold on to it as long as you need to write it. Though OpenGL programs tend to create their own and hold on to it for longer, which you could argue is a bad practice. Okay, there's a good chance I might just copy and paste this code, but let me take a look at the site. So this is the place that was linked to. Get display monitor info. Interestingly, they do a explicit load of user32.dll and then release it down below. Okay, so I think I'm getting the gist of how this works. However, what this makes clear to me is that this is not syncing with DWM. It is syncing with the physical display, which raises a problem, because if you're working on a computer that has two displays going at different refresh rates, then which do you go with? We're suddenly in a situation where we would need to consider which display we're on. Which, it matters. This isn't like an edge case that I can ignore, but it's also maybe more than I want to deal with right now, because I don't currently have in Enterprise, I don't have the infrastructure for managing multiple displays. We just simply create an OpenGL context, we run with it, and then let Windows worry about handling multiple displays. I wonder if this came up in the conversation on the Google Chromium issue. Okay, DWM in summary. DWM wakes up the compositing loop on vsync of the primary monitor, composites all monitors, and then presents to each monitor, which makes it to the monitor display on the next vsync of the monitor, which may be nearly an entire frame later. Oh, that's interesting. So on Windows, so if you have multiple hertz displays connected to a Windows computer, what this is saying is that Windows will lock the refresh rate of the Windows operating system UI to the primary display. I did not know that. Is there a source? Doing a quick search. Ugh. A lot more studying goes into these things than I like. but DWM and multiple monitors with different refresh rates. Problem finally fixed. Okay, so there was apparently a build that came out that fixed this issue. Let me read. Looks like there's some headlines. Windows 10 2004 20H1 finally gets multi-monitor refresh rates right. Okay, till now, Windows desktop window manager caused stutters and frame skips when running multiple monitors with mismatch rates. Okay, interesting. The upcoming feature, blah 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 blah. You know, this article appears to be entirely based on that Reddit page, where I just saw. There it is. Reddit user Loopy750. Is that exactly the one I looked at? Yeah, it's literally just an article going over what we read on Reddit. That's great. That's reporting. Anyway, it probably goes a little bit more in depth as to what the issue was. Even if you don't have two monitors, the issue can still be replicated when you run a game in borderless windowed mode and you have another window by the side. Moving the other window can cause stutters in the window game. Right. So I want some official source on this. Let's look at the specific version, or the specific patch that was supposed to help with this. Okay, here's a separate. Okay, this is amazing. So I found another Reddit post covering this. Oh gosh. I found another Reddit post covering this, and it cited a separate Windows Report article, which also went back to that same Reddit post. Why isn't there an official source about this detail? It seems important. Here we go. What's new in 21H1? Let's go. Is there 20H1 still in here? I forget exactly how versioning works on the Insiders program. Okay, 20H2, 2004, and Windows Server. So I think this is probably what I'm looking for. I think the H versions, if I'm remembering right, are from the Insiders program where you get betas. And once they're made into full versions, they lose the H. So, I'm not finding any mention of this. Starting to get real annoyed now. But the reason why this matters is because if DWM always synchronizes to the primary monitor, then I can just use the primary device, the primary display device, to synchronize all of my stuff. Otherwise, I need to pick and choose which one to synchronize with. On the other hand, no, there's no other hand. With the editor, I do have the ability to undock windows from the main window and put them on separate displays. However, by nature, they are all synchronized to the same thread, which will do the same weighting. I don't think I'm going to bother with separate clocking for every single sub window. So I think what my approach is going to be, at least for now, is to use the display that the main window is on, and then if you drag the main window to another display with a separate refresh rate, we would try another device. For now, I'm just going to implement this with the primary display device, because I myself have only got one display connected to this computer right now. When I do connect a second display, it's the same kind of display, so it has the same refresh rate. I'll consider the refresh rate quality across multiple Hertz monitors as a nice-to-have feature for now, and then I'll deal with that in the future. But yeah, I think that this code is probably all I'll need to use. Head back to here, getting information on blah blah blah. Does this code example use load library? No, it doesn't. Credits, enum display devices plagiarized from Stack Overflow, E3D header from blah 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 blah. Okay. So I'm gonna copy out this stuff. And mostly, like, if this doesn't actually do what it says on the tin, then it's not worth going through all the business of finding and dealing with multiple displays anyway. So let's start with this. Display device. Dump device. Dump device is, it looked like a helper function to me. Yeah, we just do outc. Just to double check, outc is a C method for formatted strings, I believe, right? It's one that I don't really use all that much. Okay, this doesn't appear to be a standard library method, so perhaps this is like from whichever library this was originally written for. Either way, this seems to just be a place to log out information. I'm going to not do that in this case, at least for now. If dd.stateFlags and display device primary device, let's see what that flag does. That's annoying. Let me see if I can't get more information from the header. I'm presuming that this is just a bit that if set means that this is the primary device. So we find the primary device, we break, and then we move on. Oh, okay, I get it. This is going through all of the devices, and then whichever device is the primary device will be set for DD when we get out of this loop. Okay, so DD is the primary device. We create a device context for it, and then if it equals null, then we have a problem. So I'm going to write this a little differently. I'm going to do EP assert. Actually, I'll do EP assert slow because I'm going to be doing this every frame. So we'll assert that this is a non-null value. And then we open adapter data, HDC, if status success, that's not defined. I must need to include a header that I haven't yet. So they're using D3D KMT open adapter from HTC. There's the documentation for it. This comes in as part of GDI 32, which I do have linked. It should be coming in as part of this header too, so... What's up with that? Okay. That must be part of some other header that I haven't loaded, which kind of irritates me because I don't have any indication on the online documentation or otherwise where that should be defined. Perhaps the NT status type. Here we go. Okay, here we go. We got something. Oops, back. Okay, so these are the values. So if nothing else, I can hard code my own definition. But I feel like I shouldn't, because this sort of thing should be included in the header. Oh, here we go. The NT status type is defined in, and system supply status codes are in NT status.h. Okay. But yeah, that's not defined in, or that's not included in this file, so I guess it's an incomplete code example. Let's include ntstatus.h, yep. And then that should give us back the status success, please. Yes, there we go. Cool. Cool. And so if we get the open adapter, so if we get the adapter, then we immediately delete the DC. Else we still delete the DC, but we report an error. That's a little clunky. What we should be doing is we should just put this outside of the if else statement. And then I would do a verify assertion. Verify. Like so. Actually, this should be EP verify slow. So a verify assertion macro is a assertion that does not strip the code out of release builds. So we're verifying that these two things equal on debug builds. We aren't testing this condition in release builds, but this code is still executed in release builds. Yeah, so that's much better looking. Then we have the star of the show, the wait for vertical blank event, and okay, we get that from the open adapter data structure. Okay, so after all of that, we can then call d3d kmt wait for vertical blank event on we, which is actually, I need to pass in the address of WE, because it's supposed to be a pointer to the thing. Cool. All right, so we're in better shape. That was a lot of work just to try a thing. But yeah, let's get rid of the DWM flush. Let's put swap buffers above this, and then let's compile and see how it goes. I'm going to start in debug build, just so that we're running those assertions on my first attempt. But then if nothing breaks, then we will try the release build instead. Okay, seems to be working. And it seems to be smooth as well, which is good because that's not running the smoothing code that I was running before. We commented that out. So now let's move on to the release build, because in release we have optimizations that make it a lot more likely that we will not align with the DWM refresh. There was a little stutter at the very beginning, but I think that's kind of par for the course. This seems to be pretty smooth so far. I think I'm digging this. So let's start recording. I'll do, I think it's Alt F9 for, yeah, we started recording. Oh, I think I saw some stuttering there. Yeah. Alt F9, stop the recording. Let's load that video up into Reaper and scrub it. Okay, and we'll start nudging the video. 51, 52, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I found one. Nudge left. Okay. So we got 80, 81, 82. Oh, that's interesting. So this time around, the problem is that it's hanging on the previous frame. We're not skipping a frame anymore. And that happened again on 1585. 91. 91 was left on the screen twice. Okay. So that's not a full solution. it seems like the in this case the wait takes too long. I'm gonna head back to the code, and I'm gonna do it the original way, contrary to what the dude on Stack Overflow said. I'm gonna do wait for vertical blank event and then swap buffers, and see how that does instead. That actually seems to have a lot more stuttering than before. Well, it's pretty smooth now, but I think I'm still dropping frames. Yeah, let's do the same thing, record a little bit of video. Yep, I just saw one. Alt F9, and then let's see how that looks on a frame by frame. Okay, so I think it was like towards the end. I thought I saw it. Let's frame. Yeah, there was one. Okay, and now interestingly, just reversing the order of operations there, doing the wait before the swap buffers call, we have the problem as it was first presented. That is, we see that we're skipping ahead a frame instead of the other way around. But it's still an identical problem otherwise. Yeah, and then we're stuck on 99 for 2 frames. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we're on 99, we stay on 99, and then we skip to 301. So sometimes it is skipping ahead, sometimes it's not. So actually the problems are identical. It's just that in the previous attempt, I was seeing the frames mostly skip behind. God, this is annoying. Okay, and they're just lagged behind again. So we went to 2409, 2410, 2411, then we skip 2412 and go straight to 2413. Okay, so this is actually significantly worse than the original solution. So this person who was like super adamant about this being the fix on the Chromium blog maybe wasn't exactly correct, or maybe my implementation was different than theirs. Let's review. I'm gonna head back to the discussions. Use the same interface that Windows' own desktop window manager already uses to implement AOS level compositing manager, the DirectX graphics kernel subsystem. I think that rings false. I don't think that this is actually what wait for vertical blank does. I think it's the dependency must be the other way around. Yeah, so this comment here suggests that same thing, that it's part of the kernel. Is that what the K stands for? This is an area where I just wish there was a public-facing, tried-and-true answer. I don't know what it is with operating systems. Windows in particular is pretty bad about this, about obfuscating common use cases. Like, there's no definitive correct way to do any given thing. Like switching into exclusive full screen mode, like if you like on Microsoft's own website, there's a bunch of different examples on how to do it, and like when you switch, like it'll still break things for users sometimes. Like it'll resize your whole desktop to match the new. Yeah, I don't know. DK. Okay. This section lists the functions, callbacks, macros, structures used to develop the Windows display and graphics drivers. All headers are included in the Windows driver kit. Okay, so this is part of the Windows driver kit. So D3D, KMT, HK. So presumably this is correct. What dude guy on the Chromium forum was saying, that this is a very low level thing that the Windows manager itself, or the desktop window manager itself, depends upon for its blanking event stuff. But if that's the case, then why am I still dealing with timing issues? Let me head back to my code, close out of GLFW's code, and I'm gonna try something a little different. I'm going to have to mess with the timing of this a little bit. I'm gonna head to the runtime for the engine. I'm gonna take this swap buffers call, and I'm going to move it to be immediately after the rendering code. This is kind of a shot in the dark situation, but normally what I do is that I send all the instructions for rendering to OpenGL, and then I continue on to update the logic for the next frame. And then at the very end of that, I will wait. And so the effect is that I'm giving OpenGL as much time to concurrently finish the requests as it needs. And just kind of I just kind of want to see what happens if I reverse the ordering on that, where I do the draw, then I immediately say, let's wait. I don't know why it would be better, but yeah, we got the same thing going on. We got the stuttering, except for it's a lot more visible this time around. Okay, so I think I'm done with this issue. I think that I will leave the runtime ordering as it was before, and heading back to the vertical blank stuff. I'm just not going to use the D3D toolkit for this. I will instead go back to using DWM Flush. Because this seems to have given me the best results. It frustrates me that they're not perfect, but maybe that's just the price of doing windowed mode on OpenGL on Windows. Because OpenGL, at least by default, doesn't do presentations that depend on the refresh rate. See, that's already a lot smoother. They do some periodic stuff, but hopefully this will, hopefully after I've done a lot more, got a lot more going on graphically, this will kind of start to look better on its own. That's my hope. Because the reason why this issue exists in the first place is because the sometimes the I will have rendered and flipped 2 frames before we even get to the DWM stuff. Oh, how's the flickering doing here? Am I doing bad on flickering? Oh, I haven't. I have left it disabled for the editor. The here we go. Down here. Yeah, I want to draw flush. The editor has its own window code, and it has its own swap buffers that I needed to implement the fix for. So play an editor now. Yeah, that's much smoother. There was a quick hang there for a second, but I think that had to do with what was going on in the background and not to do with the program itself. Well, it's... I just wish it was perfect, and it's not, and that sucks. But it is far smoother than before. Yeah, look, it hung around. It's like every... Well, it's been like 600 frames now. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Cool. So what's next then? I probably should move on to something else today, but my brain got stuck on this problem and I thought I'd document what I was doing so that it wasn't just me doing work unseen. Thanks for watching if you did. Take it easy.